So from the Dollar Tree, you're going to want to grab yourself one of these wall decor signs, and they're just marked as wall decor, and you'll find this in the Easter section. And so what we're going to do is we're also going to get some sandpaper, some paint in the color of your choice, a paintbrush, and some scissors. And so now we're going to get started by cutting off the tags. And we're just going to gently go over the edges of the sign because that's where most of the glitter seems to be at, and we just want to see to it that the paint adheres properly, and that's all we're going to be doing to prep this. So this paint seems to be doing a pretty good job at adhering itself to the board, just as I hoped. And it seems that I'm only going to be needing to give it one coat. I don't think I'll be needing to give it any more coats because this particular paint gives pretty good coverage. So now I'm just going to continue painting all the rest of the palettes, and then we'll move on to the next step. So this is what you should be left with once your boards are all nice and dry. And the reason there's two wall decor signs in front of me is because I'm going to be putting together two separate variations of the same DIY. One all Dollar Tree and one non-Dollar Tree. So for the non-Dollar Tree one, which is this one right here, I did go ahead and give it like a dry brushing with some white paint just to give it a little depth. So now that the boards are all nice and dry, we can move on. So here I'm showing you that I went ahead and cut out some words using my Cricut machine, and I weeded them and added them to the transfer paper, and so now it's just a matter of adhering them to the board. So obviously this is the Cricut version and non-Dollar Tree method, and I am going to show you another method using only Dollar Tree products. So I'm showing you here that I'm just eyeballing it and centering it to the middle of the board. Feel free to measure if you want, but I just kind of eyeballed it. And so now I'm just going over it gently with my finger and rubbing the vinyl onto the board. I don't want to use my little Cricut scraper because I'm afraid of peeling and lifting up the paint. So I'm just going over it with my finger, and whenever I see that it's not coming or it's coming up with the transfer sheet, I just lay it back down and go over it again, and there you have it. Voila, it's transferred onto the board. So for the non-Cricut version of this DIY, I have these farmhouse-inspired wall decals, and these are from the Main Street Wall collection at Dollar Tree, and they're just different variations of farmhouse animals. And the fact that they're a perfect square just made me think I needed to use them on these little Easter decor slats. So this one is so easy. All you're going to do is pick your choice of whatever animal you want to place on each individual slat and center it as best as you can and place it onto the board. Now you don't have to worry because what you're going to do is you're going to lay it down lightly just in case it's a little crooked. You could always lift and adjust and straighten it out because they're very forgiving. So following the same procedure as the step before, we're just going to go ahead and make our selection of the next image we're going to transfer on to the little slat, and we're going to center it as such, but we're not going to press it down firmly yet until we're sure that we have it aligned. And look how simply it just comes right up because it's so forgiving that it doesn't even tug on the paint or anything. And here's what you should be left with now that you have all your images laid down. And I'm just going over it with my little Cricut tool to make sure there's no air bubbles. And I'm showing you here that there's still two images left over, so I could always use that in a future DIY. And now I'm turning it over because I'm going to go ahead with my X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim off any exposed edges that I might have around the trim. And this is what the completed project should look like now that you have all of your trimmings cut off. And I just went around all of the edges intricately with my X-Acto knife, making sure to cut off whatever was in excess. And I just think it came out so stinking adorable. This sign is very lightweight and versatile. It folds into each other very easily. You don't have to worry about it being overly heavy and weighted down. You can hang this from a thumbtack or a command strip or whatever, and it should be good. So for this next simple craft, I'm going to be taking a can of this Rust-Oleum paint to these little speckled eggs and giving it a nice coating to change up the look a little bit. So for this next craft, upcycling, we're going to be using these speckled eggs yet again in another variation, and we're also going to be using some of this Elmer's glue all, simply because I don't feel like taking out my hot glue gun and plugging it in. And so I'm also going to be using some of this jute cord that I found in the wedding section at Michael's for 50% off. And I'm going to be taking some of this jute and wrapping it around these speckled eggs using some of that Elmer's glue. Okay, so a little trial and error here. I just wanted to show you that this glue was a big fail. I give it a thumbs down. It did not adhere to these little plastic eggs whatsoever. So I ultimately had to whip out the trusty old glue gun. So now that I have it all plugged in and ready to go, I'm showing you here that how I'm starting this is by coiling the jute cord into itself by making this kind of little circle wheel that I'm showing you here, and I'm gluing it onto the tip of the egg just to give it, a jump start to be able to wrap it around accordingly, because I found it to be a little easier this way than trying to wrap it around the other way. It kept sliding off. So I'm just going to put a nice dollop of glue on the bottom of that little circle, glue it on the tip, and start wrapping it around intricately by gluing the jute cord into itself. Okay, so here I'm showing you that I'm adding a bead of glue to the row before the previous row, and then just attaching that jute cord on to that glued on cord. And I'm trying my best not to touch the egg with the nozzle of the hot glue gun because I don't want to melt the egg. And so I'm just going to continue wrapping it around as such until I get to the bottom of the egg. So here we've come to the end of the closure of the egg, and I'm showing you here that we're going to be closing it out using the same method that we've been using all along, wrapping it around, and we're going to try to make that little coily circle thing that we did at the beginning by wrapping the jute onto itself, and continue on in this pattern until we get to the center of the egg where you see that little pinhole marking. And that's about it for this egg wrapping. And just like that, there you have it, the finished product. I think it looks adorable, a cute little rustic egg. And I'm not sure if the camera does it justice, but what I like about this cord is that it has this little shimmery, like silver, kind of almost like a metallic-y shine to it. So even though it's supposed to be like a rustic egg, it also has that sparkle factor, which is a plus and a win-win all the way around for me. So I hope this kind of inspires you to upcycle some of your Easter decor using maybe some of the materials that you might have laying around the house. So from the Dollar Tree, you're going to want to grab yourself a box of these tumbling tower game pieces, and this is just a knockoff version of Jenga, some of this Eileen's tacky glue, and a popsicle stick. And that's basically all you're going to need. And I'm going to be gluing 9 pieces together to start. So this part is totally optional, but I'm going to be using the back of this ruler as a guide to line my Jenga pieces against, just to keep it in a straight line. And I'm going to be attaching the first 9 pieces of the Jenga blocks together against this ruler until they adhere. So what I'm basically showing you here, that for this particular project, you're only going to be needing 2 rows of 9 and 3 rows of 4 of the Jenga blocks, which will give you a total of 30 Jenga pieces altogether for this craft. So I'm just putting together my last 4 rows of Jenga so that we can move on to the next step. So now that all of our Jenga pieces are all glued and dried, now it's time to move on to the assembly process. And so all we're going to be doing is we're going to take those 2 pieces of the 9 rows, and we're going to be attaching the 4 rows in between. And we're going to start by skipping 1 block, and we're going to add the first row, and then we're going to count 2 Jenga blocks down, and we're going to attach the next 4 one to that 3rd row. After we skip 2 blocks, we're going to be adding it in the 3rd, and then we're going to count 2 more, and then we're going to add the other one to that last block, if you follow me. So now that we're happy and established our placement, now all that's left to do is to glue the Jenga blocks to each other. And here's what it looks like all put together and dried. You have yourself a cute little decor farmhouse style ladder. And I suppose you can leave it the natural color if you wish. Feel free to put your own spin on this, but I'm going to go ahead and add a coat of white paint to it, simply because, you know, that's the color that goes with the aesthetics that I have going on here in my home. And so that's what I choose to do. And obviously this is for decor purposes only. You could lean this up against a tiered tray, against the wall. So here you see me lightly going over the first coat, and I'm just going over any missed spots where you can visibly see the Jenga pieces coming through, and just to give it, you know, sort of an opaque look. And here you have it, the finished product. I am so in love. I think it looks stinking adorable, this little farmhouse inspired ladder. And here you see me just going over it lightly with some of this fine grit sandpaper. And I'm just doing this to take down some of the thickness and chalkiness of the layers of paint. I'm not really trying to distress it or anything per se. I'm just taking down some of the heaviness of the coat. And like I said, this is for decor purposes only. You could lean this up against a tiered tray, up against the wall, set it on the counter, hang a tea towel from it. The opportunities are limitless. Feel free to put your own spin on it and do with it what you will. So these are a few of the variations of those speckled eggs that we upcycled. These are the ones that I took a coat of that spray paint to, and I just added them here to this wired basket with some of those Dollar Tree twine carrots. And these, I just put them back inside the carton and tied that raffia that it came with, and I left some of them with the speckles on it, and then some of them solid white. And then these are the ones that I wrapped in twine. I did run out of that Michael's jute cord, so I ended up using some of this cotton twine and like a grayish off-white color from the Dollar Tree, and also the regular jute twine that Dollar Tree carries. And so I did a few variations of them, and you can add these to tiered trays and baskets, put them together with your current decor, however you wish to display them. The sky's the limit. So here we have a review of all the upcyclings that we put together for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I could at least inspire someone to think outside the box and maybe upcycle some crafts of your own for this Easter holiday. If you enjoyed any of the crafts that I put together for you in this video, please do not hesitate to give it a thumbs up. It will help my channel out a lot. And if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you consider subscribing on the way out, and also tap that notification bell so that YouTube will be sure